Okay, welcome everybody. I have some new things to read before the start of the meeting. Let's see, this meeting of the Sandy Neck Board is being recorded and broadcast in the Town of Barnstable's Government Access Channel. In accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 20, the chair must inquire whether anyone else is recording the meeting, and if so, to please make their presence known. See nobody. This meeting will be replayed via Xfinity Channel 8 or High Definition Channel 1072. It may also be accessed via the Government Access Channel live video on-demand archives, that's what I mean, of the town of, on the Town of Barnstable's website. Okay. So we'll move on now with a roll call. Let's start off.
Maureen Piccioni.
Renee King.
Bill Carey.
Bill Monroe.
Pete Sampu.
Nina Coleman, Park Manager.
Hannah Lawrence, Assistant Park Manager.
And Tom O'Neill. Thanks, everybody. So we need to act on the minutes. As you recall, we did not have a November meeting because we didn't have a quorum, but we do have September and October minutes to approve. So I'll ask anybody if they have any comments or suggestions or additions from the September and October minutes. Could you please speak? Otherwise, I'll look for a motion to approve. I guess we have to do it one at a time. So
Motion to
approve the September
meeting
minutes.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Motion to, go ahead.
Motion to approve October meeting minutes.
Second.
All in favor? Aye, motion carried, thanks. Just a couple things, notes from the chair. Just a quick update. We started to talk about this, but we have a vacancy that's pending when Ann Kennedy resigned. I haven't seen any action on the appointments committee yet. I suspect, as Nina pointed out to me today, that it's probably because of the town council turnover, so that will definitely, potentially slow things down a bit with all of these board appointments. But I'll keep an eye on it. But there's nothing in motion at the moment, so I would think, it's at least 2 months, even once they've interviewed somebody. So it's certainly going to be maybe 3 or 4 months before we get that filled. And then secondly, as we were discussing, Renee is looking to see if she can get someone else from the RecCom to take the role representing the RecCom on the Sandy Neck Board. We'd like to just get that resolved as quickly as possible so we have somebody here every month. And if there's nobody on RecCom that's interested, which is fine, then we have to go out to the public, appoint another member to the board from the general public who would then represent the RecCom in terms of the being a liaison between us and the RecCom. So stay tuned on that. I'll let you know as soon as I get any more information. And finally, I had originally talked about bringing Mark to the meeting in December, Mark Ells. We'll get into this a little later, but just we had an update meeting of the project team for the Coastal Resiliency Project on November 20th, I think it was. And it was pretty apparent at that meeting that it really was not enough new. I mean, there's progress, but there wasn't enough new stuff happening to really bring Mark in. So I communicated with Mark and said we'd probably look to January or February to have him come back and join us. I think February things are going to start to heat up a lot. So, okay, so that's, we will move on with the agenda. Correspondence. Anything? No? No, sir. Okay, staff report, please.
So just a reminder, gatehouse hours are currently by appointment only. We are at the gatehouse, so if you stop by, we can certainly help you out. But you're better off to make an appointment if there's something that you need, whether it's merch shopping or to pick up, anything else. The ORV beach hours are currently 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. with no campfires. ORV campers must continue to make reservations online. In the off season, there's no charge. And just a reminder for everyone that 2023 ORV permits are going to expire January 15th. Special deer hunt upcoming dates. We're currently in the black powder hunt. So that's going to run through the 16th, and the ORV beach is closed at Trail 2. So only participants of the hunt and cottage owners are allowed beyond that point, and that extends on the Marsh Trail as well. cold stun sea turtles. So far, we haven't had any at Sandy Neck, but we're prepped and ready if we do get any in some north winds. Just a reminder for patrons that if they do find them on the beach, don't put them back in the water, to move them above the high tide and cover with seaweed and mark the location, something obvious, and of course report any findings to the gatehouse. We're in the middle of our holiday merch sales. We've got one more weekend left, December 16th and the 17th, and that runs from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. So the gatehouse is open during that time. Everything is marked down, so it is a true sale, and all sales are final. And we did start a Sandy Neck newsletter, so for anyone that is interested in seeing what Sandy Neck staff is up to, that's also available on the homepage of the Sandy Neck website.
We have never restarted the web page, have we? Sandy Neck web page. We had for a while, then they kind of died.
What do you mean, the restarted?
Yeah, sorry.
No, we never did restart the app, but then the town started its own app.
Right.
So we don't need to.
Just piggybacking.
Right, and so you can actually go on, it's on our website, how to get onto the app, and then you can select what categories you want to hear about. So you don't have to hear about everything. You can select Sandy Neck and beaches and shellfish. Those are our things. Or you can hear about the dump, or the transfer station, pardon me. You could select that box. There's a bunch of different items on there, and it's been great. So there really is no need for us to have a separate app.
Okay, great.
Also, just to piggyback on what Hannah's saying, we're busy prepping for our renewal application. 'Tis the season, so either the end of this week, but likely more the beginning of next week, we'll be sending out that email blast where you'll have the opportunity to download your registration if it's expired. Click the I agree box that you're going to follow all the rules and regulations, and then that will be submitted to staff. Just to remind folks, mostly out there in video land, that's the process: is you apply, make sure all your information's correct, make sure your registration is correct and up to date, and then you hit save, and then it goes to staff to review. So it's not an immediate opportunity to pay for your permit. You have to submit that application. Staff will then go through it, review it, approve it, and then you'll get an email saying that your invoice is ready to pay. So it's a two-step process. And you can imagine when we do an email blast, a lot of people really want to get those low numbers. And so we're going to have a lot of people sending in their applications, so it's going to take a minute. But that is partially why we do the January 15th renewal date, because we don't want people to get hung up on around the holidays and around the first of the year. We want to give that a little more space. A lot of people like to do a drive down the beach on the first of the year, and this way you can still do that with your old permit. Cottage owners as well, those will be going out.
Yeah.
Renewals.
Do you think if you allow a week's turnaround time, that'll be enough to get the new permit?
So next week is the 18th,
Yeah.
and then the permits expire the 15th of January, so that's a month.
And it'll take probably a turnaround time of how long before you can issue new permits?
I mean, it's usually a fairly quick process. The easier it is, like if you have everything attached and make sure all of the information is correct on the patron's end, it's usually a much faster process for us rather than going back and forth. I'm sure at the beginning it might take a little bit of time, but usually once we catch up with all the renewals, it usually goes pretty quickly. We're
Yeah.
usually very efficient with it.
It's also January, so nobody really is itching to get out there, so
Yeah.
we'll have plenty of time.
Yeah.
Is
Okay.
there a cap of how many permits are?
No, ma'am, we don't cap the permits. Sometimes the beach, like on a specific day, we may not be able to accommodate everybody who wants to come on the beach. It's been a few years, but like if we had a big tide and we didn't have much beach, that's where the cap would happen, would be on that specific day. And then we would use our app to alert everybody so that they didn't show up with their vehicle packed and their kids in the car and then get turned away. We try to give them plenty of advance notice.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah. How did the deer hunt go for the bow and arrow?
So there are no deer taken during the archery hunt. So far, we've had one taken this week.
And only one what?
Only one so far this week, but nothing during archery.
Okay. Is that because there's not that many deer out there?
There's certainly a healthy population. We've seen a lot of signs of deer out there. I think it's just, the luck of it, and, you're out there for fun. So those guys, there was a smaller group, so they had the entire week to hunt versus, a couple of days where we had a larger crowd for this week.
Yep.
Okay, so we'll move on to old business, and this is, I'm just going to go to Bill first in case, and then we'll go on to the project stuff, which kind of connects to the other two areas of our strategic focus, conservation, economic sustainability. In terms of public outreach, anything, Bill, that you want to talk about?
The only thing we have going on right now is one young man from the Centerville Scout Troop is interested in some sort of a project, whether it be Sandy Neck or Dog Park or somewhere else under environmental affairs. So he has the staff brainstorming for ideas, and we'll get some ideas, and we'll sit down with the staff and appropriate staff and Scout and his family and figure out what to do.
Good, that's great. Good to hear that. Okay, so I just want to cover, actually, I'm going to might as well let you do let me just give you an outline here. There's two things we want to try to accomplish tonight relative to the project. We had a project team meeting on November 20th. Things are, I have to say, so far so good, are going pretty well. And we're going to get, between Nita and I, we'll kind of give you an update on the project work. But then the other thing we need to do tonight is, and I didn't know this until about 3 hours ago, so, but we are, as you remember, in the process of applying for a NOAA grant for the funds required to pay for this project, either pay for it or partially pay for it. So we were requested to ask to send a letter on behalf of the Sandy Neck Board to the folks that are reviewing this application. So I prepared, essentially it's pretty similar to the one we used for CZM back a couple months ago, if you remember. So I have a draft of that prepared tonight. So what I'll do is give you a copy, and or I can just read it into the record. And then I'd like to get a vote that you guys are happy with that letter, so we can send that to NOAA to keep that application process moving along. So do you want to start with just your view of the update of that project update?
Sure. So it's funny. Is that everybody can hear me? So as you know, we received a CZM grant for the exact number is $92,579, and that grant we are in right now. CZM grants are really tight timeframes. It runs on the fiscal year, and so we just had our kickoff meeting for that. We need to essentially have the funds spent by June 30th. So it is a tight turnaround. The list of tasks that are funded for this amount of money is to get the plans up to 90%, get permits. So there's a number of permits that we're still working on. And then after the permits, get to final design, so 100% by June. So very compressed time frame. As you've already been briefed, we're looking at this NOAA grant, which is a federal grant. We can piggyback that on our CZM grant. So we're in the process of obtaining letters of support for the NOAA grant application. We were selected, so you send in is this a project you might be interested in letter, and then we were selected. So that's good news. Right now we're working, as I said, on the 90%. So we spent a lot of time getting a really good concept. We never wanted to flush that out too much because we still were getting a lot of feedback from the public. So we need to get our plans to 90%, which is what we're presently doing right now. The last two sort of big permits that we're going to work on over the winter is the endangered species permit. So That one is really going to be addressing spadefoot toad habitat. It's the biggest issue there, and so we're in the process of working with Natural Heritage and Endangered Species Program to negotiate a take permit. We know there will be a mitigation piece, and we've folded the funding into this whole thing, knowing that we're going to have to fund some sort of mitigation for spadefoot toad habitat. The next one is, after that, there's our Conservation Commission. So generally you do that local one last or near the end. Obviously, we still have historical permits and other local permits to do, but conservation is going to be late winter, we hope. And what we want to do is an outreach meeting to the public prior to the Conservation Commission meeting. In other words, we don't want to go to the Conservation Commission and have the neighborhood giving feedback about things like lighting and material, like whatever it is aesthetically, that's not really conservation. So we're going to go to the public, get some feedback on our more fleshed out designs. We know the public is interested in things like traffic flow, lighting, screening. These are all the topics that we need to get further down in the design and present. And then we'll be going to conservation, then hopefully final design at 100%. Bam, end of the fiscal year. It's going to be tight, and we recognize that. So, so I'd be happy to answer any questions.
The other thing I was going to mention, that we still have the archaeological survey process
Thank you. Yes, we do have the archaeological
to
survey.
complete as well.
So that came up through the MISA process. And so we had to hire a consultant to check and make sure there wasn't any Native American artifacts on the primary dune where we're going to pull the parking lot back. So we just, we just got somebody on board for that. So they'll be looking at that. Fingers crossed that there isn't any anything that comes up. I'm hoping not. It is a primary dune, and most of our artifacts are further back on the beach, but you never know. So that could be a monkey wrench, but that's going to be going along as these other permits are being obtained.
And that has to be done before the notice of intent, correct? Or should be done before.
I don't know the answer to that. I know we've had that question asked about the endangered species permit, and that one can be done after conservation, but I don't know about the archaeological permit. Maybe you know.
No.
I think Leslie said at the meeting that there'd be some, she wasn't thinking that it would be a good risk to take to file a notice of intent without having that, because it might just make somebody unhappy that we went past it, so.
I would think that you want the archaeological before you come in front of Concom.
Right.
Because that's a big hurdle to
Yeah,
jump.
and somebody at Concom could ask about it, then it's sort of something hanging out there. It'd be better, I think, if it was nailed down by that time.
So that would be a monkey wrench. So let's hope that all comes out.
Yeah, and one of the other things we talked about was in terms of the funding, which is, there's no way to know, but obviously the funding is has so many dependencies. It could be simple things like, how much money is available, to more complex things like who's involved and political environments and timing and stuff. So, I think we're teams moving very quickly, doing the best they can to keep this thing on time. And so far, it looks like there's some pretty interesting options for funding, which we're trying to take advantage of. But, we don't know how that's going to play out over the next 6 months or year. But so far, so good.
Just a question on the time frame for the public comment, getting ahead of that. What were you
Probably
thinking?
February.
Yeah, we put it for late
February,
winter. Yep.
maybe early March.
So the NOAA grant, you've got the conceptual money, mostly, which was $92,000. So the NOAA grant would be to bridge the remainder of that, like something like $10,000?
No grant would be to pay for the entire project,
Oh, for the-
potentially.
You're talking about the millions
Talking
now.
about $5 million or
Okay,
more.
What we call construction. So we're funded right up to the construction piece, because we're funded up to final design and final
Oh,
permits.
we are right now.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So the
That's-
next big lump is construction. And construction can be done in phases, and it can have multiple grants layered on top of each other. A lot of them are allowed to be together. So that's, we're presently working on finalizing permits and finalizing plans and looking ahead towards funding construction.
So, so the NOAA grant would come to us in phases for the infrastructure, the hard structure. Would it also include the possibility of the adding sand as we need to?
So,
over the future years?
So NOAA grant has a lot of constraints to it, and it actually isn't infrastructure. It's for resiliency, soft resiliency stuff. So that grant could cover like our dune restoration and some of our other parts of
Good.
the project.
Okay.
And then we would look to, we have the MVP, we're an MVP community. And then CZM has clearly, has been funding all along this design and alternative analysis phase. So they've invested in our project. So we're going to continue to ask for funding through their yearly funding source. So it's not just one source, it's multiple sources to go after the construction.
Okay.
And it's two-phase construction. It would be parking lot coming back, and then the next phase would be gatehouse being moved.
Yep. Okay. Good.
Any other questions on that? That's the latest and greatest on the project, so, okay. Let's see, where are we? So new business. We're supposed to do the election of officers in July. And we didn't. And then we were going to try to do it in September. We didn't have enough people here. We didn't have enough in October, November. So here we are in December. So we do need to get this done. But first, I'm just going to read. I forgot I wanted to read this letter. You guys, there's like 6 more copies here. So if you guys can parcel those out, I can always send you another copy. And,
No auditory.
What?
That's fine. Yeah, that's fine, yeah.
So here's the deal. This is a draft. So if you guys have any views about what's been said in here, one way or another, then let me know, and I'll make a correction or change or whatever, and we'll move on with a final letter. As I said, it's pretty similar, almost exactly like the one we sent CZM. So, okay, so it's addressed to the grant coordinator for NOAA. Pleased to submit this letter of support from the Sandy Neck Board for the town of Barnstable. Responsibilities of the board are to advise the town on matters affecting Sandy Neck Beach Park in the areas of public use, outreach, economic sustainability, and conservation and coastal resiliency. We respectfully submit this letter in support of the NOAA Climate Resilience Regional Challenge Grant application for funding of this critical coastal resiliency project. The Sandy Neck Board voted, well, hopefully, will have voted unanimously to approve this letter at our December 11th meeting. The project has been a key focus for the board since 2015. With your support and through the hard work of the project team, we are now in a great position to ensure the long-term preservation and sustainability of this precious facility for the years to come. Sandy Neck Beach Park is not just a recreational area, but a cherished natural landmark and a source of pride for our community. Its picturesque beaches, dunes, diverse wildlife attract thousands of visitors annually, making it a vital hub for leisure, education, and ecological exploration. However, the devastating impact of coastal erosion threatens the integrity and accessibility of this beloved park. Here are some key reasons why it's imperative to secure funding for this project. Preservation of natural resources. Sandy Neck Beach Park is an invaluable ecological habitat supporting a wide range of plant and animal species. Probably should even include maybe endangered.
Yeah, good idea.
Animal species. By protecting the parking area from erosion, we can prevent harmful sediment runoff, preserve the delicate ecosystem, and maintain the park's biodiversity for future generations. Number 2, public safety and accessibility. The parking area serves as a gateway to the park, enabling visitors to easily access its pristine beaches and recreational facilities. By fortifying the parking infrastructure, we can ensure the safety of park users, including families, individuals with disabilities, and the elderly, while maintaining accessibility for all. Under economic impact, Sandy Sandy Neck Beach Park plays a pivotal role in attracting tourism to our region. The park's natural beauty and recreational offerings generate substantial economic activity through visitor spending, local businesses, and job creation. By safeguarding the parking lot, we can secure the long-term economic benefits associated with a thriving tourist destination. Finally, climate resilience. As climate change accelerates, the frequency, unpredictability, and intensity of coastal storms and sea level rise are expected to increase. By implementing measures to protect the parking area from erosion, we demonstrate proactive climate resilience, mitigating potential damage and reducing the long-term costs associated with repairs and restoration. In order to address these challenges effectively, we have developed a comprehensive plan that includes sustainable engineering solutions such as beach nourishment, dune restoration, and shoreline stabilization techniques. These measures will not only mitigate erosion, but also enhance the natural beauty of the park, creating a more resilient and aesthetically appealing environment for both visitors and wildlife. We sincerely hope that you will consider funding this critical project.
Well done, sir.
So, any thoughts about anything we should change? Or, I mean, we could give you time to think it over tonight. Send me, when does this need to be in?
The 31st of this month.
Okay, so we have a little time. You guys want to read it and send me a note, or just go with it?
Well, if you need to approve it tonight, and I would
Yeah.
approve this, so if you change a preposition or something, it's.
Yeah, I think,
I don't think you'd be changing the intent beyond what this, I mean, this is well thought out, you've done it in good bullet points. You cover, all of the things that we do, the way we break down everything we look at, so I would hesitate to even begin to improve on that. It's,
okay, well then,
well
if that's the
thought out.
feeling of the board, then we can go to, we'll take a vote. I need someone to make a motion,
Make
move the letter.
approve the letter,
Sorry, Pete.
the draft
Pete can move
letter.
the letter.
Make motion to approve this letter, shy of very minor detail changes.
Okay,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so the vote's unanimous. Thanks, guys.
Good job.
We'll put that on letterhead tomorrow and then communicate with you.
Yeah. Do you want to just make that one change? I just added the word endangered down the bottom there. Actually, here, why don't you take this where I wrote it, you can see.
Okay. And then we will get that.
And then I guess, do I have to sign that then, or?
You would need to sign it, yeah. But
And-
you're nearby.
I'm nearby.
So I hear.
Yeah.
We'll make that
Dropping
happen.
off, I can drop some more towels. We have more towels, so I can drop.
And Tom, I think the effect versus affect, I could be wrong.
I've
I'm a
never gotten
science
that right
teacher.
in my entire
Okay,
life,
I think it's
so-
affecting, affect, to affect is the verb, the effect is the noun.
Okay,
So I made a note on that.
give that to Nina then,
Yeah, I did.
And then I
Okay.
gave it to Hannah.
because I have no idea.
I don't either.
I remember handing a paper in once when I was in high school where I did something like that, but I used that word 40 times in the paper. And I get this paper back from the teacher, and it's got I got like a B or something, and it just had like 40 things crossed out. Every page.
Oh, I wouldn't do
It was
that.
just crossed out.
Right. No, I'm not that cruel.
And I still don't remember
Right.
the right way to use it.
Is it their paper, or is the paper over there?
Yeah. It's one of those kind of things. It was,
We can pick it apart like that if you want.
well, at this point in my life, I don't care. So nobody give me any grades anymore. However, there is an election. So just in terms of the letters sorted, we'll go on to get the election done because we have the Concom report to do. So I spent some time looking at the Roberts rules to try to do this properly. Anyway, so apparently anyone can nominate someone, including me, the chair can nominate. But so I guess what we'll do is just ask if we don't really have three positions. We could have a secretary, but we've tended to use Donna or somebody from the staff to do that, which I'm happy to keep doing if you guys are happy to take that work. So then we need to fill a chairman and vice chairman role. So we're just going to do this by voice. So anybody have any nominations for these two roles? Then we'll have a vote. We don't really need to take a vote, amazingly, apparently, but we will take a vote at the end.
So I'll nominate you to remain chair of our Sandy Neck Board.
Okay, anybody else have any nominations for the chair? Okay, how about for vice chair?
I would like to nominate the gentleman to my left
I think you better say his name, as hard as that
Continue.
is.
for Pete Sampu to continue as the vice chair, to serve in the president's absence.
Okay, so now we can just do this by a vive voce, a voice vote. So I guess we'll just do it one at a time. We'll start with vice chair. All in favor of voting for Pete Sampu as vice chair, Sandy Neck Board?
Aye.
Say aye. Aye. All in favor of voting for Tom O'Neill for chair?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, great. But here we go. We're sorted. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
while we're on this topic, as we know, Donna is not here this evening, but she had created the 2024 dates. I don't think we need a vote on this either,
No.
but I just wanted to check with everyone, because I know she'll probably be sending out evites to everyone. But it's the second Monday of every month, except October and November, which is the third Monday due to holidays. Everybody good with that? Still?
Still always the same.
And then we have 7 PM. It's been many years, 7 PM. It used to be 7:30. I was thinking about it. It might have even been before your time, which was
No,
entirely
no, it was,
too
yeah, it was
late.
7:30, yeah, for a while.
So
early on.
it's 7 o'clock now, and I want to just make sure
Keep it
everybody's
7.
happy. 7, Selectmen's Conference Room.
Do you want a motion? I think in the past, we've always voted on it.
Not the dates, I don't think.
I don't think we need to. I think it's more just making sure
Yeah.
everybody's comfortable
Just
with
a-
it.
Just an admin thing.
But we can send out this document because it gives the outline of what to expect, like when we do fees and when we do regs and so forth. And so I'll have Don do that.
Can you also ask Donna or whoever would have the information, we need to get an updated contact list to everybody, because I don't know if Renee has any of our contact information, and I'm not sure I have all of hers either, so I'd like to make sure we have an up-to-date email and an up-to-date cell phone that can be texted, just to make sure. Now, we're going to have 2 new members.
Good to know.
That's right, we only send each other,
My memory, so having so many stickets and
send each other about 100 texts a week, so it shouldn't be too much.
Monday is kind of good.
You know what a text is, right, Pete?
I just want to say I do not. I don't have a cell phone.
You just choose not to use it.
I
Let's-
use it
let's
only when
be-
I'm going hunting or
Let's
fishing.
be clear on that fact.
I do have a flip phone.
A flip phone.
Almost always turned off.
Okay, so then we need a landline for Mr. Sampu, but, or
I got one of them.
He preferred the
paper,
tin cans
paper
and
cups,
string,
and, yeah, I was
perhaps.
just going to say.
Okay, will work fine.
All right, so. Well, obviously, we'll have potentially 2 new members fairly quickly, but, for now, we just have to
Yeah.
just get everybody's
I think that's good
updated.
to do once a year, is just restart all of
Yeah.
those documents. So, thank you.
Okay, so finally, we have the Concom report, which I think Nina is going to present, or Hannah?
I will. And everybody has it?
Do you have
You
copies?
guys remember?
Unfortunately, I don't have, I just have the digital.
Wait, so we sent it. Yeah, we sent it.
send this stuff out in advance.
Did you? Okay, sorry. Missed it.
Oh, unfortunately, I don't have copies.
No, no, but I mean, was it sent to us? I didn't remember.
Yeah,
seeing
because we were supposed to do it last meeting.
Oh, yeah, right.
So yes, we sent it out, and again,
Right, sorry. You're right.
we're doing the best we can with Donegal. If anybody would like it resent to them, or anyone in the public wants it, if you would just catch our ear, and we'll let you send that out tomorrow morning. All right, so Concom report, for those of you who haven't been through this annual report, our orders of conditions which allow us to operate as an off-road vehicle beach require that we provide a conservation report once a year. I already presented this to conservation, you weren't there. It was a 3:00 meeting, maybe last Tuesday. And conservation was really happy with these numbers, as am I. We had a really good year, but that is part of our requirement, and then I like to bring it to the Sandy Neck Board as well and get it out to the public. So it's basically what I like to say, our life on 3 pages, because this is all we've been doing. So starting off, piping plovers, we had a record-breaking year in recorded history on number of pairs of plovers. So last year, when I was giving you this talk, I said, this is a record-breaking year on piping plover numbers, and now that was at 50. We'd never hit 50 before, and now we're at 57 pairs. Now, that is a heck of a lot of piping plovers. This is not just Sandy Neck. This is happening Cape and Massachusetts wide. The state of Massachusetts is very successful at bringing the piping plover population back and is holding for many of the other eastern states. We're really the one that's providing a lot of plover pairs and high productivity rates. So 57 is a little terrifying, I'm not going to lie. We had 89 chicks fledge from those 57 pairs, which is a productivity rate of 1.56. So the goal is productivity rate of 1.5 chicks per pair. So make sure you understand that it's per pair. So it's actually, they're not even replacing themselves, but that's kind of the goal line that we look at. We did use 3 takes through our HCP this year. This is the first year we asked for 3. And Hannah rewrote the whole HCP. Thank you, Hannah, all last winter. And we went from 2 takes to 3 takes, and we had to use all 3 takes to deter 3 nesting pairs in the first 0.5 miles of beach. So I don't know how we knew that we needed that extra take this year, but we did. And we did deter, everybody knows, but I'm doing this again mostly for the video land, deterring. If you go out to Sandy Neck, you can see all of these ribbons and pallets and crazy staff going in circles raking with a pickup truck and lanes set up for vehicles to drive, and all of that is a deterring piping plovers from nesting in that area, and we're able to do that through a permit that we've obtained through the state and federal government.
Yeah, just a note there. I mean, for the people watching, and maybe, I'm not sure, Renee, how much you know about the takes and stuff, but for everybody out there who doesn't, see behind the curtain what's going on the beach in the summertime, there's an awful lot of work that goes into keeping that beach as open as possible, given the balance we're trying to strike with nature. And these takes require a lot of effort to get them. They require a lot of effort to implement them, and they cost money. They're financially, cost money. So just a good example of how clear it is that the team at Sandy Neck is doing everything they possibly can to keep that beach as open to the human users in the summer as they possibly can. So it's just important to recognize that effort. So thanks.
Thank you for that, and I do want to say staff works really hard. We partnered with MBBA. Then they brought us many pallets and also helped place the pallets. So it's really a group effort. This is the second year in a row we never turned away an off-road vehicle patron unless it was like storm related. So we were able to accommodate everybody. And I guarantee you 2 things. I guarantee you that didn't happen at any other beaches on Cape Cod with off-road vehicles this year. And I guarantee that it's not going to keep going forever and ever. So don't expect it. Let's celebrate that we had a great year, that we were very successful. We had to work really hard for it, but 2 years in a row we've been really lucky. We always kind of feel like we're running on the seat of our pants at times because those birds, they may be endangered, but they are difficult to deter. So we'll continue to do our best. So a very big success on the piping plover front this year.
Can I just stop you there? So the depredation that did happen, is it the same as before, or is it something else that's
Yeah, so that's
involved?
interesting. Conservation had that same question, and I love those type of questions because it means that you're really looking at the data. So so it was noted by conservation, it's like, well, you had 57 pairs, but you didn't have that many more chicks. And so that was certainly predation, but we did have a very large overwash storm. So all it takes is one storm and you lose all the eggs. So you have, that's why there's 297 eggs laid, but only 132 hatched. A lot of that was this big overwash event in,
Yeah.
We have it twice.
in twice, thank you.
There's
May.
nothing you can do about that. That's an
Yeah.
act of God.
So that's when you'll get that sort of upside down data.
Yeah.
But we still were able to
Interesting.
rebound. It happened early enough in the year that we were able to rebound and get the 1.57.
Yeah. Great.
All right, so Diamondback Terrapins, also a major success story. I said last year, this was a record-breaking year, so I'm going to say that again. This year, it's a record-breaking year. We cracked into the 408, so that was super exciting. 408 nests laid. Predation was way the heck down this year. So conservation was asking that question. So it's just, a lot of times it's a smart predator. So it's not just like a species that's good at getting the eggs. It's like an individual that figures it out. And all it took was that year 2021, 250 is like, that we thought was a fox, and we had a weasel also another year where you just had this one that was like, aha, this is how you get free protein.
Died of overeating.
Right. So that individual, maybe we lost that individual, and so another one will get smart. So again, what goes up must come down. The other thing is we didn't do as many caps. So this is the interesting thing about being a manager of ecology. You always have to be a step ahead. So we believed that the smart predator was queuing on the caps. So then we stopped doing all that capping, and then we had a successful year this year. So you got to keep changing things up all the time. We continued with our Head Start program. Pete Sampu is in our Head Start program along with 27 other organizations. Renee, maybe you know this, but they have, we collect a certain amount of these Diamondback Terrapins, little guys. We hatch them out, actually, and then they become little guys, and then we give them to mostly schools, but other community organizations, and they raise them all winter. And it depends on the age of the group. So the younger kids maybe are measuring them and learning how to do a chart, and the older kids are getting deeper into the ecology. But they really get invested in those turtles, and then they release them back into the marsh in June, back into the marsh in June, and then they become forever invested in our Sandy Neck Great Marsh, because their turtles live there, and these turtles live forever. They live like 50 years. So it's a way of getting the community educated and also invested.
How much, I'm assuming the answer is yes, but to what extent are the turtles a gauge for the health of the marsh?
Big gauge.
Generally?
Definitely.
Are they one of the biggest kind of?
No, definitely not one of the biggest. I mean, Diamondback Terrapins are, they're pretty common as you move down the coastline. So they're not a very finicky species. There's certainly other species of turtles like the Plymouth red belly, that like anything goes wrong and you're going to lose them. So these guys are pretty rugged, but I think I do think that you can gauge because like if you develop, like if Sandy Neck was developed, you wouldn't be able to really have this population that, and certainly if we had pollution. But the Great Marsh is very healthy, and we have all this nesting habitat. So all it took was the Head Start program to kind of bump up the capping program to kind of bump up the population.
And I assume that all of these numbers are the ones you've counted. I mean, is there any relationship between that you can extrapolate these numbers to what you think is actually out there? I mean, because you're not going to find all the nests, you're not going to find all the turtles.
We don't find them all in the first blush, but it's a pretty close count. First of all, it's Matt. He's been doing it forever. He's a teacher as well, and he does this in the summer. Nests that we miss, we find when they hatch, or we find when they were predated. So I think it's a pretty good number.
So I'm thinking that there may be an opportunity, you talk about schools, maybe something at the HYCC. There are several after-school programs. The facility is filled with kids. There are winter and summer programs that deal with all kinds of things, environmental things, maybe should be on that list. So let me learn more. Let me bring Mark into the fold, but I think that that's a nice crossover of the youth that are physically in that facility, the after-school programs, and this.
So one of the challenges anyways, is the turtle's in my room and I'm the overlord making sure everything is okay with it. You sort of need, not the kids doing everything, you need an adult who's going to be responsible every day of the year. I go in during the school breaks. You know, if we have more than 3 days off, or even 3 days off, I go in on the weekend or during the week to feed them. And that's a bit problematic. You got to have an adult who's going to be responsible. So if you have someone,
I'm not going to speak
right,
for
right.
Officer Brian Morrison.
But,
I
yeah.
do-
I will speak for Brian. He would be happy to do it.
I think that there's such a wonderful thing.
There's 1,000 turtles.
To have a peace officer and a turtle.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody else turtles.
It's a big calling. So yeah, if you've got someone there who can do that, definitely look into
and
it.
he's, you know, that's the kind of thing
Yeah.
that would help
Yeah.
in a big way.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point, because it really is more
Everyone
kids
knows.
than just one classroom. But we do try to, I mean, they're in almost all of our classrooms. They're really out
Every
there.
school, they're in every school.
Yeah.
Plus.
Plus.
Okay.
And the senior center in the past, I'm not sure if they still are, the seniors loved them. So
And
there's a lot of opportunity for that.
Libraries, right?
And libraries as well, yep. So we're definitely very popular.
Thank you for speaking for him.
You gotta retire sometime, though. You know.
Take the turtle with them.
So how many turtles per nest? Is it 12 or 15?
Yeah, the average is 12.
You're
So if
talking-
anybody wants to multiply
You're
408
talking
by 12.
tens of thousands of turtles.
Right. But turtles, their strategy, if you will, is to make a lot of eggs, and they have very high rate of loss of the little guys. So you can only expect there to be some that survive to being able to reproduce themselves. But the Head Start brings them up to closer to that point, because they would be like this big in June if they had been hibernating all winter and not eating. But if they're in this nice warm water and the students are feeding them, they're like this big,
Much
this
harder to
big,
eat.
nothing to eat. So
Everything
that
eats something this big.
they're getting closer to being able to reproduce. We're giving them a head start. So, thank you for those questions, and it was really fun to go to conservation because they were all excited about all these topics as well, and it was it was a good feel.
I will also mention that the turtles are now also going to the south side of the marsh for laying their eggs. And these numbers at 408 are nothing that's happening on the south side. This is all on Sandy Neck.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's probably a lot more going on out there than we know.
Yeah, and
about.
there's a lot more challenges on the south side as far as getting over Route 6A and other
Yeah.
fun things
Yeah.
like that, so.
Yeah,
You may,
it's-
if you
it's-
were going to track that, you might have a higher loss rate over there.
Unfortunately, we do get called when the turtles are hit. So I think we had 2 on 6A this year, and we were able to take the eggs out and put them into the Head Start program. So it
Turtles
wasn't a
are-
total loss, but we are so when I started the position in 2003, there was 40 nests a year. Now we're 408. So what happens when that? So now they're starting to disperse. So yes, we're seeing them on the mainland, if you will, and crossing over by Bridge Creek, particularly, which is a good place to check when you're driving by. And then we're seeing them down by the cottage colony with one nesting on the front beach. So they're moving about.
Yeah,
is a good
historically,
sign.
going back to the 70s, you never found them beyond Trail 2. And now they're all the way down, past Trail 5 and all of that, so.
It's my wife volunteers at the Wildlife Center, and they're full of turtles, hit mainly that have been hit on the roads and stuff. So it's something for everybody to watch out for. A lot of box turtles, particularly.
Bring it in the direction it wants to go. People don't get that. They know where they want to go.
Okay.
Plop it on the other side of the road. All right, terns continue to do very poorly. This is also a statewide trend. That's why terns are, everybody knows who's been attacked by a tern colony. There's a lot of terns out there, but their reproductive rates are really low and have been so for many, many years. And so these terns are listed as special concern. And we had only 112 pairs on the beach this year, and we had poor productivity in almost all of our colonies.
Any speculation as to why this is happening?
I mean, it's all the same thing. So the terns nest in colonies versus the plovers that want to be alone. And so that's really a smorgasbord of predator opportunity. So they can go in there and really get a lot of eggs in one go. And then terns will just abandon. Like if it's not going well, the whole pile of them will get up and leave and abandon all the eggs. So it's predation, and then of course the overwash issue as well. So you're going to lose all those colonies from that. Statewide development as well, and climate change. All of those things are causing problems with our terns. All right, so moving on to cold stunned turtles. Those are sea turtles. These are not, we've moved away from our diamondback terrapins. Sea turtles are supposed to migrate to warmer areas in the winter, and they get stuck in the Cape Cod Bay. And these numbers are from last year. We had this banner year for Sandy Neck. We had 125 sea turtles rescued. And that means that the wind was out of the north. Okay, so right now, Wellfleet has been rescuing a 300-something already this season. We haven't gotten any. That's because the wind has been out of the west. But we hope to get some turtles. This time of year, the only way that these animals are going to survive is if we intervene, collect them before they get frostbite, get them to a facility for rehabilitation, and then they'll get released in warmer waters.
Quick question. Out of the 125 that washed ashore on our beach, how many lived and got transported south?
I think it was
About
so.
60%?
I think it was closer to 80%.
Oh, Jiminy.
Last year, that year was, 'cause I've been doing this for a few years, and I would say it was the first year with the most lively turtles that we rescued. Anyway, most of them, because I've been out there some years where you'd swear they're dead. You find them upside down, they're all caked up, and they're just completely frozen. So some of them do live, but last year it seemed like a lot of them were
Perhaps mild.
were
we
pretty
did well.
lively.
Yeah.
They weren't.
Good.
I think all the ones we found. So I don't know what the statistics were, but
And I don't know where that 80% jumped in my head, but we did go to the facility, and I think that we had asked that question, and we were
I didn't
surprised.
go to that, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think I remember it was a high number.
So I think we did well, but it's probably a
That's
lot
great.
less than that if it's colder. Yeah.
How does that number compare to prior years?
the world's record. World's record. We're on a roll. World's record.
But this is just Sandy Neck. I mean, you really, if you want to look at the population, you need to look at what happened on Cape Cod on any given year.
I think it was 900 or 1,000 last year totally on Cape Cod, something like that, if I remember.
Cape
correctly.
Cod Bay?
Cape
Yeah.
Cod Bay, yeah.
Huh.
Wetland restoration, I've been at this since prior to even getting my position. We restore all freshwater and saltwater marsh areas from invasive species. There's a list of the invasive species there that we've been working on. This year we did about 75 freshwater wetlands and then probably about 15 acres of salt marsh, or checked about 15 acres of salt marsh. We did use AmeriCorps both in the spring and the fall to work on a plant that I've been really hot on lately, which is rusty willow, which looks like pussy willow, but it's a bad one. It's a European version of that takes over our cranberry bogs. And so we used AmeriCorps to do some rusty willow removal.
Is most of the work for Phragmites?
Yeah, so Phragmites is under control now because we've been at it for 23 years, I think. The only hiccup on that was in 2018, we had 2 100-year storms, and that brought in a fresh invasion, but we've gotten back into control of that.
Okay.
I have another question about the Phragmites. So you're dealing exclusively on the Sandy Neck side of the Great
Correct.
Marsh, whereas if you're driving 6A, that on the south side, there's huge fields of Phragmites. Is there any plan or thought or history of dealing with them on that side, or is it exclusively a Sandy Neck side?
It's pretty challenging to handle that on the other side. That would take a lot of herbicide, and this town really. On Sandy Neck, I used about a gallon and a half of herbicide. This year, I used a little bit more because of the rusty willow for the entire 4,500 acres. So politically, that would be a little challenging. It's multiple property owners. So, the theory with invasive species removals, you kind of want to grab it before it gets really bad, which is what we did at Sandy Neck. We were responding to the perfect storm and whatever the other one was right around the perfect storm, the 90s storms. So we were at the beginning end of the Phragmites invasion on Sandy Neck proper. And I think it's kind of too far gone over by the train tracks. It's pretty bad.
But there was on Sandy Neck, right behind our property, my brother and I in the 60s would chase each other. It was huge, that whole area, and that whole marsh that's behind there.
Yeah.
That was all Phragmites that you've dealt with over time.
Yes, we have.
And the water gets in there better, the salt water gets in there better, there's more flush.
Yeah.
So, to me, that's a success that could potentially be, gotten to on the other side as well.
It might be replicated like in plot. That's a good point. Like areas where you have
Some of the little peninsulas.
or
that go
you
out into the
have
marsh
like,
there.
we can definitely start looking at that. But I love when you say how much you like this project behind your house. Always makes me really happy because there's
Well,
a big marsh system back there.
It was a good place to hide from your parents back in the day, which, my children and grandchildren can't do, but it really, it has, the salt marsh the Spartina has really picked up back in those pieces, and also thanks to the road work that DPW does every year and your design of using the large rocks that allow the water to go through without having a culvert necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what nourishes that marsh grass and helps to kill the Phragmites because it can't handle as much salt water.
Yeah, it's a beautiful spot.
So I will mention, coming from conservation, that if you don't own the land, it's a real headache to try to apply herbicides to it. What we have on a regular basis per property owner is they'll come to us with invasive species control. Might be Phragmites, might be Asiatic bittersweet, and they hire professionals to do that. But to have an outside entity, town or state, coming onto people's private land, that would be quite a hill to climb.
Most of the salt marsh is public property though, right?
Yeah, BLT, some of it's private. It's a bit of a patchwork.
There's actually, if I just look at our neighborhood, at the plot plans, there are some properties in our neighborhood that have huge piece of marsh. It's actually, they're part of their private property. So I guess you'd need to know, be clear about your property lines, but I know there are a couple houses on the backside of our neighborhood that are on that back marsh that have quite a large part of that marsh as part of their lot. And I guess in that case, they would have to if they had an issue, come to Concom. And I think one of our neighbors did actually do that, but a few years ago. But here you go. Okay.
All right, moving on to page 2, enforcement. So this year, enforcement was down a little bit, which doesn't surprise me because I don't know if you guys noticed, but we certainly noticed that every weekend was rainy. It's like nothing ever. You've been thinking, when is it going to just get going? The summer never really started like jiving until September, maybe. So So enforcement was down. It wasn't like the hot thumping party weekends that we often, see in July particularly. And as such, permit revocations, we only had the one versus 11 last year. We are noticing also alcohol issues have been down since COVID. So we really did use COVID as a restart button, which is something that Officer Kelsey and I and staff have been working on. So it's good to see that when we evaluate, which we'll be doing at the next meeting, the actual types of enforcement we did, you'll see that alcohol-related issues are way down, minor possessions way down. Now, it's not down Cape-wide, because if you read the newspaper, the stuff is still happening out there, but people are not coming to Sandy Neck to do that activity. Revenue, we continue to do quite well. We had $1,283,418 this fiscal year. So remember, you're looking at fiscal year. It's a little challenging. So it's June 1st to July 1st to June 30th. We're going to look at permit sales in calendar year, which is a little easier to wrap your head around. But part of this is we did have a fee increase. So even though the weather was people were still purchasing permits, and then there was a fee increase for non-residents in particular. So we were seeing some revenue returns on that. If you want to scroll down, we can have a look at permit sales. So that's kind of
Can you just go back up a second?
Good.
Yeah, I was just looking at the sandwich.
Quick question on cottage lease fees were down. Any reason on that? I mean, we're in the middle of the lease, so they should be consistent.
A weird number.
But it jumped up, way up the year before.
So Bill picked up on that. Part of it is because it all is happening right at the end of the fiscal year.
Mm-hmm.
So your bills are due. So it depends on where the money comes in on either end of the part. So if you look down that line, so first of all, the 31.9 from fiscal year 21, that was when we gave rent forgiveness for COVID. So just so you know, that's what
I'm
that
sure
was.
I got that.
There was we should look into that. There definitely was.
Yeah.
And then,
I
that also was the part there as well. And then I'm guessing the 87 from 22 is why it's a little lower on the 23. But I've usually prepare for this meeting knowing I'm going to get the cottage question, and I have them actually give me an Excel spreadsheet.
It's fine. It's not all that.
But it has to do with when your bills are due.
Right.
It probably is misallocated between the 2 years.
Well, and
That's what I'm saying.
when it's due and when it gets paid can be a different thing as well.
Yeah. It only takes a week difference, and you jump in the fiscal year.
Right. And it's the same thing with, just so you guys know, with the 4th of July revenue, which is a huge chunk of revenue. Like, I can make $40,000 in one day. And so that, it's like, where does that fall? When's the nice day happening where everybody's like, let me go buy my sticker for the 4th of July? Is that going to happen on the 30th of June or the 1st of July? So that can really skew those numbers as well, just so you feel my pain. But then you're much better looking at calendar year, which is how we present the next thing, which is number of permits calendar year. This is banner year in 2022, but if you kind of take that little blip out of there, we're right on target at 4477. And again, a bit of a dismal weather year, so I think that I would guess if I looked at the recreation department, they probably had similar little dip this year because of that.
I know I mentioned this before, but that's why using moving averages makes sense, because it tells you a picture rather than point-in-time numbers. If you just have a graph showing
Absolutely.
over time, then you can see what's actually happening. Is it going up? Is it going down, or whatever? You take out some of the modularity of the exact numbers.
So over time, we're going up and up.
Yeah.
I have done that for permit sales. With blips, COVID, obviously, every graph till the end of time is going to have a COVID bump in it, so you gotta, right, no matter what topic you look at.
Right.
So anyways, Number of camping nights is down as well. Again, I'm going to attribute that to weather. We were able to accommodate pretty much everybody, and the reservation system is starting to catch on. I think people do like it.
So
For the most part.
this would say that, or at least some degree of anecdotal evidence that the fee increase didn't have any impact really on the average.
Well, we did go up with camper fees this year, so I would need another year or two to say
No, that's what I'm
that.
saying, it's very anecdotal, but.
Right. There's other variables involved.
Can you go back again? So, beach concessions, how does that work? Is that a fixed rent
Yes.
that they pay?
Yep.
Or is it a percentage of the gross, or how does that
No,
work?
it's 5,000 plus a small increase per year. But again, there was rent forgiveness in there for COVID. You can see that.
Just seems like a small number to me, but
And I gotta tell you, Bill, you say this every year, and I give you the same answer every year.
yeah.
The concession, people aren't making money on concession. Calamus had nobody last year. The guy just decided not to open. So concession is about service provided. And it's about providing something for our patrons that are paying $25 to park. And so I'm very happy that we were able to keep our guy, because it almost costs more. You know, he's working 1 million hours a day and he's not hardly making any money.
And I had another question. I'm trying
And I
to,
will mention on the concession, it is the best fried fish that I've had on the Cape.
that's important.
Bar none.
That brings
Bar none,
people.
I mean, and
Yes.
big, it is spectacular.
I second that.
So that's kind of interesting, because the year that the vendor at Calmus had a stellar year, it's just the amount of work for that stellar year.
Mm-hmm.
It became a destination for dining. And so it really
Yep.
did, the word got out, and people came to dine in addition to the people that were on the beaches to eat. And, you know, it's just that, I think for him, because it was stellar, you know, the shortage of help,
Mm-hmm.
that it fell on him. So I think that we were so pleased with him, and he brought in more people as a destination. So I don't know how to fix it, but I do know that his staffing challenges was what tipped it, not, you know, his service or his menu or his food. Word got out.
How did they manage the parking? Because, I mean, in our case, you'd have to pay
So
$30
after-
to go eat a hot dog. I
But
mean,
after
No,
the
we don't charge.
hours,
we don't charge?
and they didn't charge, so if you were going
Oh, okay.
to,
Oh, yeah.
to eat, so that was another thing, and,
Okay.
and again, it was sad to see them go, because there had been such a lull, and then it picked up, and it became, you know, destination. And I don't know how to, you know, fix that. We also have a challenge with a concession stand, a concession vendor for the hockey rink, and we just have a new one. And it's hard to just be there for big venues for sustainability. And people want that service. They're paying to come. You know, people don't want to bring their food with them, and I don't have the answer. But we're trying very hard with the new vendor that we have to get feedback.
Right.
We're trying to even go to the place, like for Rotary lunches, you know, some outside the box kind of ways to keep them there. And
To keep them there, that's what I'm saying, and we're really trying hard just to keep him. And it is a destination. Our concessionaire is amazing at frying fish and not very good at public outreach on social media, and he'll admit it, because it's all word of mouth. But we do also allow campfires on Sandy Neck in the evening, so it becomes very destination-y for that experience, particularly on the north side with the community in West Barnstable. So we really want to keep them, and I hope that we can.
What time do they stay open to in the evening, generally?
7 p.m.
7?
Yep.
The last thing you want to do is ask more money from them on a concession cost.
oh yeah.
I Less
Well,
money.
Yeah.
they'll be gone if you do.
Free. That's how I feel.
I
think
think,
it-
we're gonna
I
have
think
to
it
be creative
depends.
like that.
I think it depends on the operator. I mean, you got a good operator in there, like at Liam's, up in Nauset Beach. That place was famous. People would come from all over, and he was minting money. He did really well. And-
Our fella here is not minting money.
Yeah. So it goes,
And really
it goes,
should be, yes, it's
it
delicious.
goes down to management. If you have a really good operator, and you have somebody that can make money, and
Well,
everybody
it's a
can
small-
benefit.
It's a small venue.
Small, no, it's a small, it's not Liam's size.
Yeah, it's nowhere near
And I
Liam's
think he
size.
could be as good as Liam's. He's really
His turkey
really good.
Reuben is excellent.
It's
as well.
amazing,
He-
yeah.
He does very good. I think that the parking for it is part of, even though, you can go there as a destination.
Yeah,
A lot
yeah.
of times it's full and, most of the time.
Yeah.
So I think the parking is the biggest problem.
Maybe that's a good Eagle Scout project, a marketing project to help
Marketing.
Think so.
help the,
No?
Future
we
businessman.
have no marketing-oriented Boy Scouts?
There's got to be a merit.
Tom,
Pick up things and
we
put
do
them
that,
down.
you're the advisor.
Yeah, I could be the advisor.
So, another question. I know I bring this up. Sandwich revenue, the numbers just don't seem to change.
We've not.
We're
beat
well aware.
We've beaten that to death
that. Well, no,
over
but
the
we need
years.
to beat it to submission.
Yeah.
We need to change that, but it ain't been changed yet.
Nope.
Yeah, it's beyond our board's capability to influence that
Well,
very
I mean,
much.
I think as we move into this construction cost, I think it should be evaluated again. It's been a while
Yeah.
since I did a cost of service analysis for the town of Sandwich, so, I think that's political, and I'd be happy to put that together, but
Yeah,
it's a difficult one.
but the fee structure, to refresh my memory, the fee structure takes some of it into account if they're going off-road at least. Right, because they're paying out of town, is that, yeah,
I mean, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, but the money we make off a Sandwich isn't even as much as we make off of Barnstable. So beach parking, let me get this right. So Sandwich revenue was 53,217. And what we got for parking stickers from Barnstable residents was 113.
Well, you have beach parking on the top line, 162,000.
Yeah, that's that's people who are buying hang tags.
That's
So if
the-
you're just looking at stickered vehicles,
Yeah.
Barnstable residents provided more than twice as much to the enterprise account than Sandwich residents. And it's about a third hang tag, a third Sandwich residents, and a third Barnstable residents. And I did a cost of service analysis back in the day when we built the bathhouse. And when we built the bathhouse, they weren't paying their way. They weren't covering the costs. So then then they weren't covering the third of the cost of the debt service of the bathhouse. And now when we go to do this huge $6 million project, we're even more going to be subsidizing Sandwich. So I think that it needs to be looked at again with all the changes in numbers. I don't know what will come of that, but I think that definitely, to be fair to Barnstable residents, needs to be evaluated.
Yep.
Okay, so fiscal year end was June 30th. What's your feeling about what happened this summer compared to these numbers? Are we up or down?
I mean, the numbers are right there.
Yeah, but I'm saying, going into the next fiscal year, July, August, September, October, how do you think those numbers compare to
Oh,
these numbers? Do you think they're
the
up
months
or
that we
down?
already-
This is mostly 22
Yeah,
summer,
no, I see what
so-
he's saying. I think we're right on par. I'd have to look at our software, but there's nothing concerning there.
It'd be
Yeah.
a little less because of the fee structure change affects some of these numbers, not totally, because you're only talking about a portion of the summer where those fee changes were enforced, right, from May till June 30th or whatever. So I would think
Yeah,
that'll
we're
help
doing
next
fine.
year's numbers look even better.
I have no concerns. All right, moving on to the next page. Thank you, Hannah. Escorts. I will say Conservation picked up on this. We were pretty high on escorts this year. I did ask staff to evaluate if it was like across the board, and it was determined that it was a family or two that uses the escort system quite a bit. I can't remember the percentage that was really just one family. Do I have that right?
Yes.
That
Exactly what is that? What is
an
that?
escort. And so piping plovers are on the front beach, and we need to get cottage owners to their cottages at the cottage colony. And so we do provide an escort service where a staff member escorts them past piping plovers. Every time you drive by a bunch of chicks, your probability of a fatality of the chick could so conservation and the state wants all these numbers to stay down. And unfortunately, this year it went up because we had a couple of families that were going back and forth quite a bit and utilizing the escort system. We do have MOUs with the cottage owners, and this is a service that we've agreed upon. So it is what it is.
The other thing on that, though, is it's educational, which is it. So there's, what, 55, 60 properties out there, and there is access without going on the front beach. I've never used an escort to get out to our place. We don't need it. It's, there is a challenge going between someone that's in the cottage colony can go the Marsh Trail to Trail 5, to the connector over to Trail 6, and that's where the challenge is. I'm sure perhaps older residents that little dip is the most challenging four-wheel drive spot that we have, and to the point where my wife says, no, we're not going that way. That's why you have people that are going to take advantage of that escort. They need to be able to get to their property, and they may not be comfortable with that particular stretch of the road. I mean, for Hallett's camp and my camp, it's the trails dump right out where we're going. There's no reason why we can't use the Marsh Trail, and the improvements that have been made on the Marsh Trail in recent years. To even at height, there's a lot of high water that we can still get by, whereas years ago we couldn't. So it's a changing environment every year.
Yeah, we definitely work with the presidents to see if we can reduce this number next year, see what we can do to make those individuals more comfortable. But all right, we have our pheasant hunt has finished up on November 23rd. Tent camping was 227 nights, and last year you guys asked me what that was compared to the year before. So 2022 we had 201 camping nights. So camping is tent camping, hike-in, is very popular. That this year, I want to say, is when we went to a digital reservation system, which had a number of hiccups. But before you had to just show up and hope there was a site, and now you can reserve it well in advance. So that makes people who are coming from off Cape a lot more comfortable. Two-wheel drive tests, 26 tests. I guarantee you they didn't all pass. And special permits, 36, 36. I'm looking at the wrong one. 36 special permits. Horse permits is pretty low, only 21 permits. Those are, that has gone way down since one of the horseback riding outfits that was renting horses to people moved out of, away from here, and so those numbers have been way down. Walks and talks, we combined forces with Barnstable Land Trust and Mass Audubon and do a number of walks and talks that are advertised and well attended. We have our beach cleanups and BBA in the spring, Coast Sweep in the fall. Junior Ranger, Hannah's been running Junior Ranger and does an amazing job at Junior Ranger. Anybody with kids between 9 and 12.
So that's another opportunity, the beach cleanup with the Barnstable Youth Commissioners,
Yep.
Trying to get some of those projects across, so.
Yeah, that would be great. I know as my children are moving through high school, they need to have hours of community service. So this is, we definitely should start to cross-pollinate with that stuff. Halfway house permits, we still are doing the Cape Cod Art Association. It's pretty busy out there. And then Sturgis, thank you, Pete, who does a lot of work on the halfway house with his students, so that's been really great. And yes, there are portable toilets available on the beach, 6 units. So I think we went through all the questions, unless you have portable toilet questions.
I just have a question in terms of the folks utilizing the facility. So Massachusetts, outside of Massachusetts, and international, do you have those kind of?
Sure do. Yeah, in terms of our guests that purchase a hang tag, which is the same, so that went up on all Barnstable beaches to $25. So you'll see that reflected in the revenue. We have, they come in waves. We certainly have international folks, a lot of Canadian folks in August. I don't know if they all go on vacation at the same time, but it's a European thing. We'll have a day where we're like, was that another German person? Like, I don't know if there's a memo that goes out.
All of Europe is on vacation from
There
the
you
last week of July to basically the end of August. All of Europe.
It is really fun.
They're only off 1 month, so everybody goes on vacation.
That would explain a lot of international travels in August. But yes, definitely, it's a marquee destination. St. Nick is internationally known.
But I thought maybe you were also asking, the ratio of out-of-towners to in-towners is one of the things that we talked about with respect to fees, because in 2009, the number of permits sold to out-of-towners was about the same as Barnstable residents. And over those many, many years till now, the Barnstable usage is about the same, a little bit up, but essentially has been relatively flat, whereas the out-of-town usage has gone up exponentially to the point where it's triple, basically, the in-town use. So it's become much more of for a lot of reasons, much more of a venue for visits from folks outside of Barnstable. And that was one of the reasons we kept the fees for Barnstable residents the same this year and raised the fees a bit more significantly for out-of-town residents because of the, what's actually effectively happening. And that's our leverage to help to pay for this project, is to have that cash flow and to use a marketing term, the pricing elasticity seems to be pretty good here. So in other words, even when you raise the price, we're not seeing the number of visitors go down. So there's it gives us a bit of leverage to help fund the project. But it's heavily used by out-of-towners. And I think Nina can even tell you where they're from, because obviously we now have more electronic control of who they are.
Asking about who was like driving in to use the public beach, and that's more where you see the Canadians and the folks that are just visiting for a day. But then we certainly do have data on the off-road vehicle folks, and they're coming from all over New England, certainly.
Yep, I have a question. Should you also include in this report scientific research that's ongoing at Sandy Neck? You take in applications every year.
Did we? We certainly can. It is reflected in the special permits, because you have to get a special permit. But we could break that out. It's a little challenging of a data point, because a lot of these folks are like year after year after year.
They repeat.
Continue. Right. So a research permit is a 5-year permit.
Okay.
And then some folks, like Mass Audubon, did their Spade Foot Toad program, and so they would just keep renewing it every 5 years. So it's a little challenging to present it as numbers, but certainly we can present it as topics.
I think it's just interesting to know what scientific research is going on out there.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe some of it's really important to us as a board. We'd be interested in what the results are, their findings.
Yeah, we did talk about this, because I think it was last year they did that one Zoom call on the marsh that was fascinating. I know Pete was on the call. I was on the call. Nina was there, I think, at the meeting, but it was a fascinating presentation. And I think we said that maybe, if I'm not mistaken, I think Hannah had agreed to kind of give us an update on what's going on out there as a part of the staff report, just, make it a part of it.
Yeah, I can certainly send that out again. I know we had, I think it was over the summer, one of the board meetings where we had, on the screen all of them, but I can certainly send that list back out.
That'd be good.
Yeah, it'd be good to see that. Okay, public comment. Okay.
New business.
Yeah, new business.
I guess a recommendation to staff, to administration. When you're sick or, unable to attend a meeting, it'd be helpful if we had an alternative where we could have a Zoom meeting, still have the in-person.
You can't do that.
Can't do that. We talked about that already. It's because of the filming and,
Is that
It's because of the
Open
open meeting.
closed case, they just will not,
You need to either be,
administration will
you
not
need
do
to
it.
either be Zoom
Or
or
not
not
Zoom.
Zoom. You can't flip-flop.
we checked that early a couple months ago, I think.
It's too bad.
Yeah, the problem, look, if you have 7 members and one is sick, you can't just, the logistics of trying to say, well, Bill's sick, so we're going to have a Zoom this week, and, it'd be a nightmare. I think we just have to try to, I think hopefully we'll get to 7 members, because it's, as I said earlier, if we only have 5 members, then a quorum is still 4. So, and it's a real pain if you have to come down here and you don't have a quorum and you have to cancel the meeting. So, so until we get full board, we have Renee here for the time being until we get someone to kind of take that role
I'm so
officially.
excited, I'm bringing the youth commissioner with me the next time, so. I see some great opportunities.
Yeah.
And
There are.
the young folks, when we asked the youth commissioners why they're doing it, it was just so rewarding for the young people, their Sturgis folks on the commission, to say they have found their voice. And this stuff, the environment, and this is really important to them.
Yeah.
And so for them to be able to have this kind of access, I think is kind of great, so.
Yeah, look, dropping the average age of the board a little bit wouldn't be a bad idea, in terms of getting a different perspective. That's what you want. You want diversity of thinking, in something like this. So, yeah, we're definitely open to exploring that, so.
And I would
Yeah.
also just, I know that there's no option for hybrid, but I do know that one of the things that has helped us with the Recreation Commission, I think we might have gone a little bit too far. People do enjoy the face-to-face, but at least we have a few scheduled Zoom. And so when you think about the months of February and March, if we were to have a difficult weather month, that, providing we have access to Zoom, that might be a thought.
Yeah, what we've tended to do over the years is cancel a meeting if it's, if it's the dead of February, there's no agenda, and it's snow, it looks like it's going to be a nasty week, we'll tend to just not have the meeting. I'd probably say at least once a year, maybe twice a year, we'll just cancel the meeting because there's no agenda and there's no urgency to have the meeting. So, yeah. We went through this discussion about hybrids and Zooms, but I think it was generally the feeling of the board that the Zoom meetings are effective for transmitting information, they're lousy for discussions. And that's to me, if it's just me pontificating for an hour, that's great, but if you want discussion, debate, you can't, it's impossible to do on Zooms, it just doesn't work. So here we are. Okay, any other new business? Public comment? No? Thank you guys for coming, as always. Always appreciate your support.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Motion carried. Thanks, everybody. And also have a great Christmas and holiday and
Days every what?
New Year's and
Happy
everything
New
else.
Year's.